Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my review of Zack Snyder's Justice League, more commonly referred to as the Snyder Cut. Now before we get into this, I do want to tell you about some changes I made. I moved around the camera and the script a little bit, so hopefully it's a little bit better now. I also got rid of that eyesore of an Endgame poster behind me and replaced it with some a little bit less non-reflective posters and things like that, comic books, whatever. So hopefully it's a little bit of a better backdrop. You don't really see my window too much. You don't really see too much of the lights. So hopefully that's a little bit better. But anyways, let's get straight into this. So we have waited 3 years for this movie, and boy, was it was something. Very hard to describe exactly how I feel about it, but we'll get to that in the review. Spoilers ahead. If you don't know how I review movies, I rate 3 key elements: the story, the music, the visuals, and CGI, and at the end, I'll be throwing in some quick thoughts on my comparison to the original Justice League, as well as placing it in my overall DCU ranking. So, let's just get straight to it. The Snyder Cut was divided into 6 parts alongside a prologue and an epilogue. Now, the first thing I want to point out is the very unorthodox format of the Snyder Cut. This movie is displayed in an old-school 4:3 framed-out box, which basically means it's just a square on the screen instead of fitting the newer HD TV's regular rectangular shape. This was a creative choice made by Snyder, and while it looks cool to have the classic movie style, personally, I think it should have been an option rather than a set format if you wanted, like the black and white version is going to be coming out. I think it should have just been a separate thing on its own. Getting into the story, the prologue shows us the impact of that heartbreaking scene from Batman vs. Superman, where Superman heroically saved the day by slaying Doomsday and in the process killing himself. We see that the impact of Superman's scream is heard by both the Atlanteans and the Amazonians, both of whom have mother boxes in their possession. It's the Amazonians who we focus on here, as their box begins to crack and they prepare for battle. Part 1 starts off by giving us the confrontation between Bruce Wayne and Arthur Curry, the Aquaman. We then see what Wonder Woman is up to as she stops that same terrorist attack from the original cut of the movie. I'll do my best to not compare the 2 movies too much until the end, but it's just gonna happen. And that's when the chaos breaks loose on Themyscira. Steppenwolf arrives looking fantastic and claims the mother box as he destroys every Amazonian in his path. Part 2 kicks off with the Amazonians lighting the beacon on the mainland, warning Diana of what's happening. We learn a little bit about Cyborg and his father as the parademons search for more mother boxes. Aquaman saves some dude from his sinking boat before speaking with Volko about returning to rule over Atlantis, which he denies. Steppenwolf makes his way to the wreckage of Chernobyl, where he decides to create a base and place the first mother box. It's here where he speaks with Desaad about his plans and how he plans to redeem himself. Wonder Woman then meets up with Bruce and fills him in on what happened the first time Darkseid invaded Earth, and we get some awesome visuals of Zeus, a Green Lantern, Man, and the Amazonians and Atlanteans all fighting together against the big bad. Part 3 finally gives us our first look at Barry Allen as he tries to get a job, but on his way bumps into Iris West, who he then saves from a horrible car accident, and there's a good chance here that she learns his identity. Steppenwolf then kills some Atlanteans in order to gain information on where they are keeping the mother box. Cyborg learns how to control his power and what immense power he has. We learn even more backstory to him about the death of his mother and the disconnection he's always had with his dad. Barry Allen then talks to his father, who is in prison, before making his way back to the hideout, where he talks to Bruce Wayne, who tells him about the team. Diana then speaks to Victor, who seems to deny the offer and denies his gifts as Cyborg and protects the third mother box. Meanwhile, Steppenwolf finally arrives in Atlantis to claim that mother box, where he is stopped by Aquaman and Mira, but ultimately wins that fight and escapes back to Chernobyl, where a force field is instituted, and he speaks with Desaad once more. Part 4 kicks off and we finally start to see the team assemble as they talk with Jim Gordon on the rooftop. Batman, Wonder Woman, and Flash arrive, and Cyborg isn't far behind to join them. The majority of this part is an amazing fight scene between the team and Steppenwolf and his forces. Steppenwolf is in possession of Victor's father and wants to learn where the third mother box is. This fight scene is great and has some epic moments. It ends when Steppenwolf escapes once more, causing a breach in the sewer systems when Aquaman arrives to save the team. Steppenwolf speaks with Desaad once more, but this time he is also confronted by the man himself, Darkseid. The team meets up and discusses the game plan, where Cyborg reveals the experiments he was put through in order to stay alive. Following this, we see Martha Kent speak with Lois Lane about the death of Superman, and then it is revealed to not have been Martha, but instead, Martian Manhunter. This was amazing, and I was not expecting it, but more on him later. Part 5 shows the team putting their plan into action as they do a bit of grave digging and retrieve the corpse of Superman. They're able to break into the fallen Kryptonian ship, where they plan to use the mother box to retrieve Superman. This part is key to the final battle, as Barry has to use his super speed while Victor accesses the box in order to charge it. It's here that we see the first nightmare sequence. Wonder Woman is dead and her body is burned. Darkseid kills the Atlanteans, including Aquaman, and uses his sweet Omega beams. Superman holds a fried corpse, most likely the body of Lois Lane, as Darkseid stands over him. We then see a dead Green Lantern body looking a lot like Kilowog, and a destroyed Hall of Justice, and standing over it all, Superman, holding the cowl of Batman. We then watch as the team successfully brings Superman back to life, although he doesn't quite remember who he is. He fights the team and defeats them before Lois approaches him when he seems confused and takes to the skies. Steppenwolf arrives to claim the final Mother Box and in the process kills Victor's father. Part 6 starts off with Lois reminding Clark who he is by taking him to the farm. The League assembles one last time to discuss their endgame. Clark reunites with his mother and realizes he was given a second chance for a reason. Steppenwolf unites the Mother Boxes, forming the Unity. Superman makes his way through the Kryptonian ship, where he finally puts on that glorious black suit, and my god, does it look amazing. The assault on Steppenwolf begins as the rest of the team makes their way inside thanks to Batman and his amazing set of gadgets. This sequence is absolutely beautiful as the team kills parademons and fights Steppenwolf himself. Cyborg links up to the Unity, and just as Steppenwolf is about to kill him, Superman arrives to save the day, absolutely annihilating Steppenwolf. But he's not so easily defeated. Cyborg took too long to reach the Unity, and Flash gets wounded. Victor is sent into another nightmare where he sees himself and his family living happily together before accepting who he is and fighting back to reality. It's here that the portal to Darkseid opens, and we see how he waits with his armies and both Desaad and Granny Goodness at his side. Flash is forced to set back time in order to change the Mother Box, which he does successfully. The Unity is destroyed and Steppenwolf is killed, his body landing inches in front of Darkseid, who decides it's time to do things the old-fashioned way. We make our way to the epilogue where Victor listens to the final message his father left him, and we see him level up as he learns a new power. Clark, Lois, and Martha return to the farm, and one thing I failed to mention earlier was the pregnancy of Lois Lane. An interesting story for the future, or a future we might never see, unfortunately, but more on that later. Aquaman speaks with Mera for the final time before taking off, tying directly into the beginning of Aquaman, which was pretty nice. We then learn that the scientist working very close with Victor's father was in fact Ryan Choi, who in the comics becomes the Atom. Bruce decides it's time for Wayne Manor to open back up for business, and Barry visits his dad where he tells him he was able to get a real job at the police department. Cyborg stands over his dad's grave, and in a moment of true symbolism, he takes off his covering and reveals himself to the world before taking off into the sky. And then we see Lex Luthor has escaped prison and meets up with Deathstroke, who looks absolutely amazing with that helmet. Lex reveals he knows the identity of Batman, and Slade is very interested. And then we get the big confusing ending. It's our final nightmare scene, and it is hard-hitting. We see a team of outsiders and nightmare versions of characters we've already met. Batman, Mera, Cyborg, and Flash, who in a great bit of fan service is wearing that same outfit he did in the original BVS time travel scene, and Deathstroke. But there's one last member as Batman turns around and he has a conversation with his oldest enemy, the Joker. He mocks Batman's many losses, such as his parents and his dead Robin, who he calls his son, possibly referring to the fact that this could have been Damian Wayne. I mean, we have Deathstroke as a character now, so possibly? I could definitely see Zack Snyder being a fan of the darker comic series known as Son of Batman. It also appears that Batman let Lois die and caused this whole chaos future where Superman seems to be the cause of the death and destruction, which is very reminiscent of the Injustice storyline. This was such a perfect adaptation of several apocalyptic storylines we've seen in DC Comics, and to me it reminded me a lot of the Band of Misfits Justice League we see in more recent Dark Knight's Death Metal series. We also learned that Harley Quinn died in Batman's arms and begged him to make sure the Joker died slowly. And finally, yes finally, we get the Batman F-bomb when he talks about his rule and tells Joker to make no mistake, he will effing kill him. That was sick, okay. And then Superman finds the group before heating up his eyes, possibly going to kill them, but definitely going to be a good fight. And then it's revealed this was another dream by Bruce, maybe more of a premonition than a dream, but you get the point. He walks outside where Martian Manhunter descends and tells him that Darkseid will return. One cool thing is that Martian Manhunter was right before our eyes the whole time, disguised as General Swanwick during Man of Steel and BVS. He tells Bruce his name and tells him that he will return. So let's get into some ratings. We will start with the music. Now this is so hard to pick a ranking because the beginning music and that weird opera music that played 100 times through the movie was just kind of weird. I mean, it's more of an artistic thing and a filmmaking thing, but as a superhero movie fan, I don't quite get it, and I found it kind of annoying, but at the same point, it worked, and some of the music was absolutely amazing, like Wonder Woman's theme and that final battle music. A lot of the music really set the tone well, and I think it's just phenomenal to listen to, so I think we're going to have to give the music a 9.1, with the exception that I may just not really understand the artistic viewpoint of that opera music. Following that, we'll talk about the CGI and visuals. This one may be controversial. We'll start with the CGI. I think Steppenwolf and Darkseid looked absolutely amazing. Those fight sequences with the parademons looked stunning. The color in this movie is great, and while I believe there is a grayer filter placed over the whole thing, it still looks freaking awesome. The placing of the shots and the choreography was just so well thought out. I could not take my eyes off the screen during those battles, especially the final one. Some of the smaller aspects of the CGI may have been questionable, such as green screens and some character edits, but overall it was amazing, and I'm going to have to give it a 9.8, as it is just a beautiful movie. Now for the story, there is really only one thing I could say about the story, and that it's perfect. I mean, yes, it's 4 hours. Yes, some of the story doesn't make much sense, or it's drawn out, but here's the thing. The story being told here is absolutely amazing, and there is so much character development. Cyborg's story is one of the most touching, as we see and watch his relationship with his father. Flash grows as he pushes himself to the limit. Aquaman starts to realize that there may be more to fight for than just himself. Hell, even Steppenwolf had a quest in this movie and tried to please Darkseid. There is so much story here from a filmmaker's perspective, and it was just gorgeous. From a comic book and superhero lover's perspective, it is just gorgeous. So yes, I am giving the story a perfect 10. Now before we get to the final rating and the ranking of rewatchability in the DCU, I just want to take some time and share not only my thoughts, but some comparisons with the original. The first thing I want to say is, wow, there was so much missing from this movie compared to the original. There was so much character development, so many more scenes we didn't even know we needed. The follow-up to that old Nightmare sequence wholeheartedly delivered. And then you had the appearance of new characters such as Darkseid, who was amazing, and Martian Manhunter, who, though his part was little, yes, it was amazing. I went into the Snyder Cut thinking it was going to be garbage. When the first scene came up telling us about the aspect ratio, I went, oh, here we go. I believe that the Snyder Cut never truly existed, and it was a half-finished piece of garbage in a warehouse that Warner Bros. Finally said, alright, finish it up and throw it out there. I thought it was going to be a bunch of random stuff shoved into the original movie to try to fix it somehow. But no, instead what we got was absolutely beautiful, an amazing story about some of our favorite superheroes. It is a real shame that we may never see the Snyderverse fully realized, because this set up for so much that we may never see, and that really sucks. Of course, you have everyone speculating that Part 2 is going to be released, but personally, I just don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. I want it so badly so we can finally see all those loose story ends tied up. But hey, anything is possible. Maybe if the fans band together one more time. I mean, we got this far. We got the Snyder Cut and the true version of the Justice League we've been waiting for. So maybe, just maybe, if the fans come together one more time and fight for that the Snyderverse be restored, we can get there. In the meantime, let's finish up this review. So tallying up the scores of music, visuals, and story, Zack Snyder's Justice League, The Snyder Cut, earns itself a 9.7. Do the math. Yes, I rounded up instead of down, even though it was a 9.63. I do not care. This movie is amazing, and please take the few hours and give it a watch, because you will find it absolutely worth it. If you couldn't tell by everything I've said so far, I have placed this movie at number 1 above every other DC Extended Universe movie with the most rewatchability. So finally that does it. I thank you so much for watching. The Snyder Cut was truly a special experience for me as a DC fan, someone who has always loved DC Comics more. Finally seeing a proper version of Justice League assembled was a dream come true. Remember to like, subscribe, do whatever you can to support the channel. Hit the bell icon to be notified when videos come out, such as my entire Batman Funko Pop collection. And that does it. Thanks for watching.